Listen. What can you hear? I have with me some hook and loop tape, often also known as Velcro. Did you know that hook and loop tape, which is quite a good description because it literally is little hooks and little loops, this simple, seemingly simple and now obvious invention was inspired by nature. It was inspired by those really annoying burrs that sometimes get caught on your socks when you come to places like this. But if we think about this, whilst the patented name is Velcro, who is the original patent holder? If a burr invented it first, or invented the concept that was then used to inspire such an invention, should nature get some of the royalties for this very useful invention we use every day? In a world coexisting with AI as a very, very useful tool to make us more productive, what I see is a future where a lot of the mundane jobs that we do, the different tasks that we have to perform on a daily basis, those tasks can more easily be done by automated systems, usually with AI-based technologies. And so that actually puts a bit of a challenge to us as humans, as workers, as citizens, as just people working through the daily grind. How do we start reframing what we do? How do you start to see new opportunities to do new things? If we look at this interesting little invention and maybe start to reframe this and think, was this really just a discovery? I believe it starts to open up a mindset where we can all start to think of ourselves as explorers every day, looking for discoveries that help to inspire us to do things a different way. Because make no mistake, what you did yesterday will not be what you're doing in the future. We start to require a lot more inward looking into our inner creativity, those things that I believe are innately human traits or biological human traits, to find opportunities to do things a different way. So if we start to think about these things as discoveries and we start to think of ourselves as explorers that going about our daily grind, if you're looking at the world from the perspective of exploration and trying to find these new discoveries, then it creates a new mindset. It means that you're not so much a follower, you're someone who's a trailblazer. If anything, I would argue the fact that we think about all these complex tools that we have around us as being inventions, when in fact you can see all along they were really just discovery upon discovery upon discovery, and then combining different discoveries together into processes and products. If we start to reframe everything from the perspective of it just being a discovery, it opens up everybody to being a new creator, a new explorer. So what does this mean as far as helping, or what are some of the things we can start to do when we start to reframe our day as explorers as opposed to people following processes, people going through tasks the same way we did every day for the last however many years? It means that we start to need to look at things from the perspective of always being a keen observer and not just looking at something for what it does, but maybe even looking closer to see how it does it. Why does it do it? How can it be used in different ways, which is why I like to come to places like this, going out into nature, because that's where there's more serendipity, and I can start to look at the world from the perspective of how nature has solved problems, solved its challenges for millions and millions of years, and how I can see analogs from the perspective of opening up my mind into doing things a different way in the 9 to 5, into Monday to Friday, or whatever work routine you have. But also looking at things from the perspective of a full system. This piece of Velcro alone, this piece of hook and loop tape alone, is not very useful just sitting in my hand. It's useful when it's placed into application with something. It's put onto a shoe, or it's put into a strap, or it's put into a jacket. And so now we have potentially a better jacket, an easier, more robust shoe, or a suit that allows us to go into environments that humans just aren't made for. But how do you start to look at everything in that different way constantly? We really have to start being more curious intentfully, and not just being a passenger on the train to the destination. So going with that, being in a train, how do you take your journey on a train? How do you take your journey to your destinations? By car, bike, plane, who knows? Do you just sit there and try to space out and go into your own world? Or do you sit there as a keen observer and start being very curious about things that we take for granted? Because that's where you get the serendipity. That's where you may find the inspiration. You can't sit on the train of life and just expect to suddenly become curious. You need to let yourself and allow yourself the space to become curious and to start looking at things. It might be just a button, it might be just a hinge, it might be a door, and start to ask, well, is that a good door? Is that a good button? Is that a good hinge? Is that a good process that you're performing in your role? Is the Excel spreadsheet all about the numbers, or is it about the meaning of the numbers and what you're trying to achieve? Is the hole there to dig a hole, or is it to fill with water, or is something else going in the hole? So you can't have an expectation that you're going to find something, because the chances are 99 times out of 100, the journey of curiosity is all there is. But the journey of curiosity, in my view, will start to open up your mind to being more curious implicitly by nature, and you'll build a habit of curiosity. Because in order to use AI, in order to create AI systems, to create any sort of technology to solve a challenge, we need to start looking at the challenges that we have for what they actually are. What are we trying to solve? What are the different pieces or ways that we go to solve it today? Just because you have one idea doesn't mean it's the only idea. Don't accept the norm. Is the way that you got to work today, is the way that you're doing things today the same way you should be doing things tomorrow? If you are in an Excel spreadsheet looking at numbers, is it a case of, what are the numbers all about? Should I be doing this in an Excel spreadsheet? Should I be manually typing it in? Can there be a way that we can automatically get the data into the sheet? Do we need the Excel spreadsheet at all? And that's all about challenging assumptions. Assumptions about every little process, every little habit, every task that you do throughout your day, from the instant you wake up to the instant you get back into bed every evening or every day. Thinking, is what I'm doing today the best way to be doing it? And why are you doing it in the first place? So I'm sitting here in what is a relatively quiet place, recording this video. And I'm quite lucky because this national park is part of Sydney. It's not very far from the city. And so it's very easy for me to get out of the office, get out of my home, get out of my rut, and see the infinite depth that there is in nature, and notice that there's always an extra layer to peel back to find something new. I hope you can find that opportunity too.